Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show. We are coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios, and I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is how to have health and wellness by practicing unity. Let me introduce you to our guest cast as well as our entire health and wellness cast on the show today. Our guest cast is Brendan McDonough, and he's a wellness coach, and he is coming to us, joining us from Ireland. Welcome to the show, Brendan.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Great to have you. And we also have next to Brendan, Linda Dyer. She is also part of our Health and Wellness Evolution cast, and she's coming to us from Australia. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you very much. Wonderful.
Good to have you from down and under. and then next to Linda, there is Ninan de Rosa. And she's also part of our Health and Wellness Evolution cast, and she's coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be with you and with Brandon. Awesome. And Linda.
Fantastic. All right, so before we get really started, I just wanted to say a couple of things about the two modalities that we're probably going to be addressing today on the show and have a dialogue about. So what I wanted to say about this is that our present healthcare system is really based on treating disease. And what I mean by that is most of our doctors are disconnected from the patients, and the patients are disconnected from themselves and from the doctors. And what we're treating today is the symptoms, not the real cause. So there is this new model, the new integrated holistic model, where I believe that what we're doing, and this is the future, is that we are looking at the mind, the body, and the spirit, together, and coming up with a solution for the real cause of whatever ails us. So with that, I just wanted to get started with Brandon, because Brandon had a very personal experience in terms of the first model I described, which is treating the symptom. Could you share a little bit with our viewers what that experience was like for you when you were going to the doctors?
Sorry, Steve. Yeah. Yes. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2008. That was 4 years after my dad died from the worst possible effects from type 2, which amounted to a horrible quality of life for 10 years, gangrene, amputations, horrific operations and transplants. And 4 years later, I was diagnosed with SAME, which didn't exactly thrill me, I have to tell you. Now, I was, 51. So I basically wasn't all that happy with the way that he had gone anyway, and I had questions that sort of tormented me. To start with, I kind of denied it for a while, a few months, and then I came back once the shock was over and all of that. Having first-hand knowledge, seeing it, smelling it, all of that is totally different to reading about it or being told about it. So I went on a quest. The first thing I looked at is type 2 diabetes, obesity is at pandemic levels worldwide, well, certainly in the Western world. So it occurred to me, well, the doctors have been doing this for 30 years now, and it's getting worse rather than better. Why?
Yeah, so Brandon, hang on for a second. So what I'm really curious about, and what our viewers are curious about, is specifically your experience. You went to the doctor, and I would like to get our viewers to get an insight into what it was like for you, because you're like on the other side of the planet in Ireland. What was it like having a dialogue with a doctor? And I mean, you went there because you tell us, what were you feeling? What was going on with you? How did you know that you needed to go see a doctor?
Oh yeah, I had done all the things that everybody else does. I was too busy to think about or look after myself, to be honest. But I started to feel unwell, And one day I decided, actually, one habit I did have was I'd go for an annual check anyway. So I went for the annual check.
Okay.
And I mentioned there that I wasn't feeling well and that I was getting hot and cold and hot. So they ran all the checks.
So let me just hang on. So your symptoms were you weren't feeling well, which meant what?
Which meant that I felt I didn't have a lot of energy.
Okay.
At all, and I was getting less and less, and also I was feeling very hot. Now I discovered why that was. I had hypertension. My blood pressure was bursting, literally. So that's part of the diabetes thing.
Okay, but don't go there yet because we're trying to do this up. So you went to the doctor and said, I have low energy, and you had symptoms of cold or maybe the flu, and the doctor said?
The doctor basically decided to do an all-round check there and then, insofar as they could, and took blood samples, took other types of samples, and decided that I had a high glucose level in my blood.
Okay, so hang on for a second. So I just want to go back for a second. So how long, when you went to the first visit, how long did the doctor spend with you?
Sorry, Steve, how long did the what?
Yeah, how long, when you went to this first visit, where you were telling the doctor what were the symptoms that you have? You weren't feeling well, and you were having a cold and maybe a flu. How long did the doctor spend with you in terms of time?
Half hour.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say.
And then he set you up to go get a whole bunch of tests, right?
Yes.
Right. So you did all that, and then after all the tests were done...
Can I just interrupt a second? Did he at that time, in that half an hour, did he actually kind of sort of know that you had diabetes too?
No, what I knew in the half hour was that I had elevated glucose levels in my blood. That's done through a urine sample. Okay, and then samples are taken and sent off to the lab. So 4 days later, I had the diagnosis. Okay,
so you had no idea what you had going into the doctors, coming out of the doctors, until you went over and got all your tests.
Exactly.
Okay, so don't go anywhere. We're having trouble with your video feed, so we're going to call you back. In the meantime, I'm going to cut to Linda in Australia, because I know that Linda is very familiar with health and wellness, because she has gone through her own experience. So what was your experience, Linda, the first time you knew that you had an illness?
Well, I was at the University of Oregon doing, copious amounts of degrees and swimming, and I did not feel well, and I knew something was happening. And when I came back to Australia, but I'd been used to pushing my system to the limit, I worked at a hospital. And the hospital, I kept coming down with what they called a virus. So I went to the doctor, and then it was from the repeated visits that this one woman doctor at the hospital said to me, I think you've got lupus or a disease of the immune system. And of course, nobody knew what it was then. I've got to be a pioneer, so I thought I'd be a pioneer in that as well. So it was about, what do I do with this thing? I was like falling over. And here I was, almost a professional tennis player. I'd played a lot of sport. I was very well in my terms. I had so much energy, and then all of a sudden, I had none. Mm-hmm. And
okay.
And I didn't remember anything, like I'd ring people up to tell my babysitter I couldn't come and pick him up, and I didn't know who I'd rung. It was catastrophic in my mind of what was happening.
Okay, so you had a kind of a similar experience like what Brandon had. You went to the doctor, you told them how you were feeling. They did the test, they did the analysis, they came back to you and told you what they thought your illness was, right? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Which was lupus, okay?
Yes.
And then what was the treatment?
Straight on to yet another doctor, the same thing, yet another doctor, and also a psychiatrist.
Wow.
So you got a second, you went to get a second opinion, Linda? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, a psychiatrist.
Oh, a psychiatrist, okay.
Why did they recommend you to a psychiatrist, or did you go yourself?
Well, because you have to be loopy if you've got lupus.
Okay.
Well, in their terms, you had to have something, in order to get your immune system to that state, there had to be something psychologically wrong with you, or you didn't know the balance between, going full on, which was my life, and probably still is, going full on and resting. So the body, I think my ex-husband used to call it hyperactivity or dead. But it's just like that bundle of energy that you think you can do anything. That we're living on adrenaline, a drug in our body called adrenaline. And so I went through the system over and over again, and until one day I decided I didn't want to tell anybody anymore that I didn't feel well.
Okay, so let me just get this clear for the viewers. So did they put you on any kind of medication?
Oh, they tried.
Okay.
What do you mean they tried? Did you not do it? They tried and you refused to take it? Why did you refuse to take the medication?
Because as a kid growing up, I had helped my mother out with a lady, and her husband was dying from the effects of cortisone. And I'm so grateful that I saw that. I'm not grateful for him, but I'm so grateful that that was part of my experience, because I got it to here and my hands started shaking. And I knew, being in, studying nutrition, I knew that cortisone stops calcium from being absorbed. So I knew that if I took this, there was a good chance that I may just cover up like a Band-Aid what I had, and now I'm going to have osteoporosis, because if calcium can't be absorbed, then the bones are affected. I knew that. So I got to here and started shaking, and that was the best thing that ever happened for me.
Okay, so hold this story right there. We're going to go back to Brandon in Ireland and continue his experience. What were the doctors prescribing to you in terms of how are you going to get well?
Steve?
Brendan?
That connection is really bad.
Okay, so the question was, we stopped with you right at the time when you had the analysis done. They told you had type 2 diabetes, and what was the doctor prescribing to you? What medication or medications he was going to put you on to get well?
Okay, no, he didn't. What he said was to come back in 2 weeks. He wasn't going to prescribe anything until I came back 2 weeks later. I did come back, and at that point, he was just, look, go another 2 weeks. We don't see an improvement. We'll have to go on medication. So in the following 2 weeks, I did come back, and at that point, I made up my mind that I didn't want to go on medication, and I wanted to do something about it myself.
Okay.
So I was.
All right. So there was a moment. There was some kind of a magic moment when you said, and that's what I would like you to share with the viewers. There was a magic moment, something that you connected to inside of yourself that said, there is something off here about going to the normal, traditional medical system, and I'm going to do something different. Can you share what that was?
Well, I bearing in mind that I still had the suspicion about that it's a pandemic lens. Why? I'm looking at it, I more or less decided that the paths that diabetic patients are sent on is nearly as much at fault for the degrading or their depleting condition as the...
Okay, we're having trouble with your feed, so what we're going to recommend for you to do is to stop your video, and we're just going to have you have your picture and have a good audio, because we got to have a good audio, otherwise we have nothing. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to go back to Linda in Australia and ask you the same question. What was that magic moment within you that said, okay, I'm going to be responsible here for myself, And what were you feeling? What made you make the choice to not follow what the traditional medical system was telling you?
It was about 4 years later for me, and it was the fact that I wasn't getting better. I was going down the path of what these people, and I had scars all over my body where they'd taken muscles out to test it, because, you know, they test you for AIDS, they test you for MS, they test you for everything. I had scars on my legs, and I had a new baby. And it was tough, and it was tough because I'm such a positive person. It was tough going back to the doctor and talking about all this negative stuff that's happening. And so I was then starting to study about the power of the mind, and I was in a nutrition company. And all of a sudden, one day I went, you know what? My husband actually made a statement. He said, "You weren't very kind to the doctors today." And I said, "You're perfectly correct. I wasn't, because I don't want to keep repeating how unwell I am. I would love to go and tell them that I'm improving, but that isn't happening. So I think I need to do something myself." And that was the turning point.
So did you go through 4 years of agony? Because it looks like you didn't take any medication for 4 years. What did you take for your pain? And did you take anything like an aspirin, or did you take anything at all to relieve? Nothing at all. So you just went through the agony of 4 years.
Yes, they did a lot of, they put me in hospital a lot. And my son got really scared about anybody in a white coat because I was being taken away. I used to get, you know, lots of different complaints came up. I ended up with asthma, and I started to cry because I said, "You can't have two diseases, that's not fair." Because I'd never been sick, so here I was, and then they told me I had nephritis, which is swollen kidneys, and I said, "Oh my God, you know, what's going on? You can't," you know, I said, "It's just impossible to have 2 or 3 diseases when you've been so well." I'd been so well, I could, you know, I was at the top of my sport, and then all of a sudden I was just so sick. So I'd seen it from both sides. And then one day I just made a decision, and that was the crux for me. I went, no more. I'm not going down this path anymore because I don't feel any better. So I remember writing them a letter that went for 6 pages, and it basically said, "I'm not coming back." And I got a job, that's right, on a boat. And he was yelling at me, "You can't work on that boat. You may be sun sensitive." I said, "See, you don't even know if I am. So you're making decisions around something you're not even totally sure about." So it dawned on me. So I did work on the boat and took my husband and son with me. And I lived my life. I kept going. However, it was around when I was doing some personal development, and I said, you know what, I have to do what this guy, Bob Proctor, had told me, and that was to make a decision, start believing that I could make a difference, act on it, and then expect wellness. So I did exactly that. That's what I did. I made a decision, and I walked out of that hospital, and I still remember to this day going, okay, you've made the decision. I could feel the sun on my face going, all right, this is a new start for you. And what do I have to do now? And I remembered, you've got to act on it. So act. I have to believe and act. And I believe and action rotate. The more I believed I could make a change, the more I acted on it. So I went down to the newsagents, and I remembered some of the books that were being written about people that had cured their husbands of cancer or cured, and I bought all those books. And I read them, and I bought a juicer, and I juiced everything. In fact, you would have been lucky if you'd left my house and you weren't juiced.
I love it.
I was juicing everything, you know. There was no
but
beer
also,
or alcohol.
you know, with what you're saying as well, Lynn, I hate to interrupt you because I want to stay on the track, but you're also, your body, your whole mind was like mind over matter, and you decided within your body. So that was like healing your body as well because of the positive way you felt.
Yes, it was. It was like for the first time in my life, I realised the importance of that mind and body connection. It's actually, we don't want mind over matter. We want mind and matter in love with each other, and I got it. It's not just about the nutrition.
No.
It's about having that thought that you can do it.
That's what I was getting at.
If I didn't have the thought, yeah. It's about listening to the messages that you can make this happen. I started to make the foods that were in these books. I started to juice. I started to rest more, which was, you know, very uncommon for me. I was, it was just an amazing change. And then I tried all these different products that were out there. I went to alternative therapists. I had people massage my muscles so I didn't have to take anything. And then one lady said, think about it. If you've got a muscle problem, you understand nutrition, it's got to be a mineral problem. And I went, oh, everyone's giving you vitamins. You see, the doctor I worked with for years, he said to me, Linda, we only get 1 hour of nutrition in our 5 years of becoming a doctor. That's why we don't understand that you need minerals. We don't learn that you need minerals.
Yes,
we don't learn that.
Absolutely right on. That's great, Linda. So I would like to know that within those 40 years that you did the traditional model of medicine, did you notice within any of that time that, remember when I described at the beginning of the show the holistic model, that it's mind, body, and spirit, did you notice that new model show up within your first 4 years?
Yes, somebody told me I needed to probably meditate, and I said, I don't have time for that.
Oh, good Lord. You're a very strong woman. I don't even know how you got sick in the first place.
Okay, thanks, Linda. All right, we're going to go back to Brandon in Ireland. So, Brandon, I think where we left the conversation was that you went back to the doctor, I think the second or third time, I don't remember exactly, but and he went on vacation or whatever happened. And then when you made this choice and a strong decision, you choose you powerfully, and you made this decision similar to Linda in Australia, that you are going to take things in your own hand and find a solution for your illness. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Steve, yes.
Okay, now talk to us about, and the viewers, what are some of the modalities and tools that you used to get you well? What did it take you?
Okay, the first thing I did, Steve,
and I need you to speed up a little bit if you can. I know things are a little bit slow in Ireland, but we're in America and people are going to lose us.
I'm getting slower.
So one of the solution, America, pay attention, we got to get slower. Slow down.
There you go.
Calm down.
Smell the roses. I love how that came out.
Okay, Steve. Yeah, no. The first thing I did was I became very political about it. I looked at the way that the medical world works, etc., and I knew that I had to play a game here to some extent, and that was I was going to take control of my own health, but I wanted to some extent, I needed some of their scientific information month after month and all of that, so that I could, what would you call it, professionally keep an eye on the situation as well.
And you got that from where, Brendan?
Well, I started with my own doctor, and then I got to know a dietitian very well, a dietitian researcher actually, and then I started my life coaching training. I started to ask the right questions. I made contact with various doctors around the world, in the United States, in the UK, Ireland, endocrinologists. I actually came across a natural weight management counselor in the United States, which is a rare enough being. But with the information, now I should also add that I was a 5-star chef at one stage in my life.
Wow.
So I knew food. Right?
I love 5-star chefs. I love food.
So can I jump in with a question here? You weren't overweight, were you, Brandon?
I was 53.
Oh, you were overweight?
Yes, I was. 53, somewhere between 53 and 56 pounds overweight.
Well, that's not an awful lot, because I was thinking a lot of this, especially in America, I'm sure it's all over the world, the reason that, our younger generation as well are overweight, the obesity thing is an epidemic, and then they get the diabetes and diabetes too. So I was thinking that maybe you really were overweight, but you weren't. 53 pounds is not that much to be overweight to get that disease, so you got it actually from your father.
Well, actually, I I've
Yeah.
disproven that one too. The 53 pounds overweight. You see, I really did a lot of research on this, and I've also found out that it really depends on the individual. And for example, you could be like maybe 26 pounds overweight and be type 2, you know, and someone might not get it at all, and they could be 150 pounds overweight. You know, so it's different for different people. But I was deeply suspicious of the hereditary factor anyway, to be honest.
Right. So what we want to make sure, everybody, that the viewers hear is that what you did first is educate yourself, correct?
That's exactly right, Steve, yeah.
Okay.
And not only that, but I formed relationships with people in the know, so to speak, as I said, with doctors, endocrinologists, you name it, okay?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure everybody also notices that Linda did the same thing. Linda also educated herself, is that correct?
Yes, we either come from a place of ignorance or knowledge, and I just needed to find out, you know, I was so well, so how could I get sick? I needed to understand that. I was always interested in the body anyway, so I needed to find out how I got sick, and then I would know how to get well. That was my theory.
Okay, would it be accurate, and I'm asking you, I'm not asking these questions of Ninan, because she's a very strong woman and she doesn't get sick.
Well, touch wood, no. But my family, my father actually died of cancer. My father had cancer. My mother died of old age, but my father had cancer.
Okay. Okay, but where I want to go next is I want to make sure that, you know, we continue to connect the dots, that first comes the fact that we become aware that there's something wrong with us. Then we go to the doctor, we go to the traditional system, then we have an opportunity to have them help us, and if it doesn't work, then we got to do something else. And what we're doing next, I guess, is that we connect, it's an inside job. We go inside and listen what our bodies are telling us. Is it true for the both of you, Brendan and also Linda, that your body was actually talking to you? You knew what was going on after a certain point of time. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, that is right, Steve.
Yes. So after you did the education part, then what was next? What did you do next?
What was next was, let's stay with the education part for just one little second here. What I identified was, well, what's the problem with the solution? And the problem with the solution was, okay, you've got to lose weight. Well, what do? You go on a diet, you walk briskly, you run, you swim, whatever all that is. Mm-hmm. Right? The other one was then medication. Well, then I investigated, well, what's wrong with that? Well, I discovered various things, one being that insulin actually adds weight. So you're fighting a losing battle to a certain extent unless you're very determined, okay? And then there was the psychological aspects. The whole thing is built around, the whole medical approach is living with diabetes. There are organizations all over the world that help people to live with diabetes. There was nobody like me that wanted to live without diabetes. So I focused on reversing it. And then I looked at what are what will help me here. What will help me there is more or less to clear my mind of all that I learned and to go almost completely against the traditional method of treating it. I did all that.
Can I just say I did exactly the same thing, because there is actually lupus associations. And I lasted one meeting because when I went in there, they were all keen to just find out more information about their disease. I didn't find keen to get rid of it, to not have it. And so I became quite radical in that association. And I said to them, I won't have this disease for long. And she said, oh, well, congratulations on your remission. And I went, no, there's no remission here. It will be gone. I just need to learn out how I got it and how I can let it go. And even when I did let it go, the association did not want me to come in and talk to the lupus sufferers, which was very interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Did you both of you, did you try to find out how you got what you got? I mean, yes, Brandon, maybe through your father because of the heredity. Did you find out as well, Linda, through your family, or was there a missing loop somewhere?
Absolutely. There were two things that I know for a fact. One was I was living off my 4% of conscious mind and not trusting the subconscious, not understanding that we had subconscious mind that we were connected to the universe and had messages. I was so busy that the universe would have sent me a message and I would have ignored it anyway. So that was one thing. The other thing was, unlike Brendan, I was doing more exercise than probably two people. So I was training for tennis 2 hours a day. I was swimming a mile a day. I was doing 2 degrees in 2 years, you know, because I could. And so I was doing so much exercise that my body, I didn't understand that when you put out like that, and a lot of people with lupus, the minute they come to me, I know they're either a workaholic or they are a mum that's also working, that's also doing this, that's also doing that, etc. And the adrenaline has covered up or masked the problem until adrenaline runs out. Then all of a sudden you've got no more cover-up. So it was a threefold problem, really. Probably we lived on a farm, so the exposure to chemicals was massive, you know, massive. And my sister also was diagnosed with it, and the dogs were dying, and nobody ever thought that was going to be a problem for us as the humans on the farm.
So you got this through chemicals?
Well, a combination, as I say.
Hang on for a second. I want to look at this from a different place and see if it's accurate. All right, so if we have the power, and both of you have already demonstrated to me, and I'm sure to the viewers, and we'll talk about it some more, that both of you had the power to make yourself healthy. Now, if you have the power to make yourself healthy, do you have the power to make yourself ill?
Absolutely.
Linda did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you be doing that? How much of your illness, Brendan, and how much your illness, past illness, Linda, do you think you're responsible for, and how?
Oh, totally responsible. Totally. But however, totally responsible, and it came from a place of ignorance. So I absolutely believe that our system is set up that we are kept in a place of ignorance around our health, because then we're fed into a medical and hospital system for when we get sick. And there's a lot of complacency out there that it's okay, if I get sick, I'll just go to the doctor. Rather than I am responsible, you know, getting to cause around everything in your world, including your health. I mean, my mother fed us wonderfully, and however, we didn't understand. We were ignorant of the chemicals on the farm. We were ignorant. How many people are aware of what it really does to the body? People were hoo-haing that it affected anything. And so it came from a place of ignorance. And yes, I did do a lot. I played tennis, I swam, I did a lot in a short amount of time. I wanted to really live my life. I mean, I hitchhiked through the Canadian Rockies. I came home through Africa. I spent my body. I spent it. Oh. And that's what happens. That's why I got sick. I was absolutely spent. I came home
but also you were in different countries. If you were going through all these places, you were also in different countries, actually eating their food, and you could have picked things up there too, because you weren't...
Or not eating their food, because if I don't like something, I don't eat it. And so
either way...
Yeah, this is so interesting that both of you are from a completely different area of the planet, and your story is so similar, and the solution to your story and your illness is very similar. So Brandon, yes. I just want to come back to you for how much of your illness do you think you were responsible for, and how so?
To use Linda's expression, ignorance, I'm a little reluctant with that one. I think we are more traditional. Things are traditionally done this way, done that way. You know, we eat this way, we drink that way. When we're teenagers, we socialise this way. We drink too much, we eat too much nonsense, rubbish. We go to the doctor, take anything he gives you. You know, we're not taught to challenge anything. So I think it happens like that. You know, until you get to a stage. Actually, until I was doing it that way until I was stopped. Literally, my own health stopped me, and made me think about it. And that's so. I think it's ignorance is correct, but it's education from way back to change the way we do things.
Yeah.
But how much am I responsible for it? answering it that way, probably, as Linda said, 100%.
Yeah, so what I want to make sure also that the viewers hear is that we're not against traditional medical systems and solutions,
No.
because it has its place.
Yes.
But what we want to highlight, I believe, on this show is that there's nothing that's more important, I believe, in these days and for the future, that all of us are becoming aware and becoming responsible for how we feel, and when our bodies are communicating to us that there's something off, that we look for the solutions ourselves and we educate ourselves before we run to the doctor and just do whatever they say. Because that system, that is the old model of healthcare, and I don't believe that it works anymore. What do you think?
Look, absolutely, because I look at some people now with lupus that I tend to attract, obviously, and they're on chemo now. Like, go figure. They're on chemotherapy. Like, I don't think the medical system understands that if you close down an immune system, how on earth are you going to recover? So for me, understanding the body, it was slow down the immune system and heal it. So if we can learn how to slow things down, like take minerals and relax and exercise, and, you know, I always say you are a product of how you eat, drink, act, and think.
Yeah.
So if we do those four things, if we think about what we're eating, if we think about what we're thinking, you know, what you think about, you get about. So if you think wellness, you will be well. You can actually shrink your body down, and I can heal my kidney by just shrinking my body down into my kidney and healing it. Wow, who'd have thought that? You know, I can take minerals after minerals after minerals, and I can start feeling my muscles starting to respond. Because if doctors don't understand the power of minerals, then how are we going to understand it? Where do we get our education from? And sometimes it's by going outside the medical world and then come back and talk to them about it and say, well, this is what I've found, and this is how I've improved.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, and I think what the problem is, I think what we're doing with our bodies now and our minds, I think we're relying on everybody else to sort it out, and to take care of my illness, to take care of my education, to take care of my feeding. It's like, you know, a lot of people, the disaster for the Sandy storm we just had here in America, a lot of the people were relying on the government, on everybody else to do something for them, rather than sort of relying on their own human being of what can I do? And I think we're relying too much on everybody else to solve our problems, rather than getting back to ourselves and solving our own problems. My mother never believed in doctors. So my mother fed us food and took care of us in the way she knew that we wouldn't get sick. And if we did get sick, she had Ecupecuana and tincture of quinine. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, Linda, but that's like an English medicine. And she would give us a couple of drops of this, and she would literally send us to bed to rest. We could not get up. We had to be there for 2 days, and then we were all better and fine. So we never saw doctors. So now I've taken that from my mother. I don't see a doctor. And like Steve said, Ninon's very healthy. It's because when I feel sick, I've got it drilled into my head from a child. Take care of it at the time of the beginning of it. Rest. Take care of it. Make sure what you're eating. Take the liquids, but you know, take care of yourself. And I think we don't do that. We usually say, I'm sick, I'm going to the doctor. I think that's what we're sort of embedded
that's actually it's a disempowered state, though. You know, if you're going to blame other people for you not being well, and blame the doctor then because you're not picking up as quickly as you could. And also, we've got to understand that medicine gives us what we call a quick fix.
That's right.
So you want this ability to pick up quickly, and whereas some alternatives do take a lot longer, simply because they're healing you as they do their job. And we need to understand that sometimes taking a little bit longer, and then having, for example, I don't have lupus anymore. So, you know, to have an end result like that is absolutely worth the time to put in. And I live with minerals. I chew them, I drink them, I take them on board. I just went to a mineral man here in Australia with anything that was imbalanced, just throw it down me. I'm right into it, because every muscle in your body needs minerals, and if you take a vitamin, it can't work without minerals. Isn't that interesting? But all we were given were vitamins, so they come from a place of ignorance as well.
Yeah, great.
I
Linda.
believe the two hands of medicine should come together.
Yeah, great.
Steve,
So before we go to the have a conversation about alternative strategies, I just want to go back to Brandon and go back to the theme of today's show: how to have health and wellness by practicing unity. What do we mean by unity, Brandon?
Okay, Steve, I want to say one thing before I go there, if you don't mind, and that is I'm very, very reluctant to let the idea get out that someone shouldn't go to the doctor, you know, if they're a type 2 diabetic. I mean, how would you know if you didn't go? And it's an illness that can do a lot of damage in 3, 4, 5 days, not to mind a month, you know. Mm-hmm. Now, what Linda's talking about and what I'm talking about is managing our 90% of the condition, whatever the condition. But
right.
there is still that 10% of the doctor, and there's no question about it, because if they don't identify it for you, you can't really manage it anyway.
That's right.
That's correct.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think we're not saying not to go to the doctor.
No, we're not saying not to go.
What we're saying.
I appreciate that, but as I was listening there, that's how the message came across, and I really
I was saying.
sorry, Linda, it wasn't actually.
Bring the two hands.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so.
I was saying bring the two types of medicine together, Brendan. Bring the doctor.
No, I appreciate that, but it wasn't you, Linda, actually. It was at the beginning of this conversation. Look, let me just shorten it by saying, everyone go for your annual health check to your doctor, please. End of. And if, for example, one of the reasons I could reverse it is, one, they identified it for me. Two was I got it before it got to the amputation stage.
Yes.
And then I applied my 90%, but I couldn't have done it without their 10%, I can tell you.
But did you also feel that because of your father had the same problem, you felt that maybe that's what it was, and so that kind of urged you to sort of have a checkup and to make sure that you didn't get it?
No, Nina, I didn't. In fact, it was nothing like that. Once my dad died, I have to tell you, I cannot even describe to you the horror the man went through and how he felt about it. And by the time you got over the grief of the whole thing, you really just wanted to never go there again, you know? Yeah. So you can imagine the shock when it came back to me. But anyway, that too, my father, I really am not convinced that the hereditary factor is such a player as it's made out to be. For example, I cleared myself of type 2 diabetes completely. Now, there is no doctor on this planet that really believes that, other than, you know, there are a few. For example, I have a medical letter of clearance, a full bill of health. You will no longer have type 2 diabetes. And just as a point of interest, I had my annual GTT last week, which is the annual check you have to have. And I'm on year 4, totally clear of type 2 diabetes.
That's amazing. That's an incredible message to get out there. Incredible message that you can cure it.
But it's in the 90%. You still need the 10%. You need the 10% doctor input.
Oh, I think, we still need doctors, absolutely, to diagnose what we have. If we're really getting sick and we really feel bad and we're still sort of like Linda was just weak and she couldn't, eventually said, I got to go to the doctor and find out what happened. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, and I had already, I had already developed this thing. I was listening to my body, listening to my mind. I was drawing energy from everywhere, okay? And as Steve knows, I had a brain hemorrhage in the middle of it all. A main artery brain hemorrhage, and I applied the same methodology to that, and all statistics said I should be dead, because a main artery brain hemorrhage kills within 20 seconds.
Wow.
I wasn't diagnosed for 2 days and wasn't operated on for 7.
Wow.
And when I came out of that, I had to have my skull opened, etc., brain operated on. It took 1.5 years just for the wounds to heal up. But I still kept my diabetes plan up, and I proved that you can reverse it completely, which I did. So I recovered from both.
Yeah, and that had nothing to do with the diabetes too?
Beg your pardon?
That had nothing to do with the diabetes too?
No, separate issue.
Completely separate issue.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so before we let this thing run away, in terms of giving an explanation to our viewers about what do we mean by how to have health and wellness by practicing unity. What do we mean by unity? I think this is a critical question to answer.
Well, I think you need to have a look at how are you thinking. You know, like how are you thinking about your health? You know, are you thinking that, you know, like people talk about, oh, yeah, I've had a cold this year and I'll probably get another one in November. And I think, how can you think like that?
Then you will get one.
It's like you bring it on, you know. It's like, you know, or we ignore the symptoms. For example, I've got a lady staying here from the country at the moment because we're studying NLP, and she said, I got this cramp last night. And I said, did you know that cramping is a magnesium and calcium deficiency, and that the subconscious mind will actually send you a message? What we need to do and what the viewers out there need to do is understand that those messages are so important. For example, if you get a fluttering of an eyelid like that, that's a calcium and magnesium deficiency. So that if you went on some calcium and magnesium tablets, you would notice that it goes. She got a cramp. That's a calcium magnesium deficiency. The liver carries a certain amount, and that's why we get through a cramp. But unless we pour the magnesium and the calcium back into our body, and of course they're the main minerals, when they're short, when your body's not well, we're in stress. So by having unity, by having the mind and the nutrition and the exercise and the liquids all working together, then it's calming. You just know. You go, okay, so I need to take some magnesium. I rub magnesium cream all over my body every day. I've now got back my potassium, which now brings in my boron, which means now I can store my calcium in my bones better. I know I have no longer any connective tissue disease because I keep the magnesium up, because I do ask a lot from my body. So let's look at your body as a bank account. If you're going to be putting out a lot, yeah, physically, mentally, stress-wise, then you need to be putting good stuff in. Okay? Otherwise, you're making withdrawals and you're going to be in debt in nutrition and also in the way you think. Oh, this doesn't work, it's all right for her. No, it works for you too. It works for everybody. Think well. Be grateful for the wellness that you have, and then eat the foods and drink the water that you need, or the green teas, whatever it is for you. I walked to the beach at 5:30 this morning. I've had the most beautiful morning, and I've rested with my friends here. I've got ready for this show. You know, there's no stress about the way you live. It's beautiful. And it's around thinking about, you know, I'm so grateful for everything in my world, and especially my wellness. Thank you for my wellness. And then I'll get if I get a little tweak or a little cramp somewhere, then I'll go, okay, thank you. I need a reminder that I need some more minerals. Thank you for that. And I'll take them.
And you're absolutely right about that magnesium. A girlfriend of mine has started taking it in the last couple of months. She got that problem where her whole side of her face went numb and it dropped. And
that's called Bell's palsy.
Bell's palsy, that's what she got. Yeah, that's exactly what she got. And she was really frightened about this, and then something else happened, and then she lost her balance. She started taking magnesium. And she said she's never felt so great in her entire life. So she's now looking into her body to find out what's going on and what else is going on. And she's really taking care of herself now personally. She's saying, wait a minute, my body, you know, these things are happening to me in a split second. Something can happen to you. So I think
Steve, could I just ask Linda a question, please?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, Nina.
That's all right.
Yeah. Linda, can I just ask you a question? When you say, thank you for my good health, who are you thanking?
I'm just thanking the universal energy. So people can call it God, Buddha, whatever, or the universe. I'm just being grateful for,
okay.
and it might be that I'm. But it connects you to your subconscious. It connects you to. We are so connected.
That. Yeah, but that's actually advanced, Linda, by comparison to your ordinary everyday person. Really, you know, the last thing I want to happen is that people will look at me and say, "Oh, that's only him, Superman. He has some kind of very strange connection somewhere," you know. And I think with the minute we start to go that direction, it becomes a way. The unity is disappearing. That really the first person to say thank you for my health too should be you. Me. I say to me every day, thank you, Brendan, for your health, for what you did.
That's why you're feeling so good.
Yeah. All right, Brendan. So I think the message to everybody in terms of the viewers is it begins with being aware, being connected to ourselves, educate ourselves.
First and foremost.
And we just have a few minutes left to talk about what's next, which is the proactive strategies that we can use to get ourselves well. And let's talk about that, and we just have really short time to do that. So, Brandon, share with the viewers first what are some of the proactive strategies that you used, some of the tools and modalities that you used to get yourself where you are today, which is very healthy.
Okay. I'll do it very quickly, Steve. The first thing I decided on was that I'm accountable to no one, and no one is accountable to me. In other words, I am accountable for myself, to myself. Nobody else, no universe, no God, no doctor, no nobody. I'm me, that's it. The buck stops with me. So once I brought myself back down to there, everything started to happen. For example, I lost the 53 pounds weight. I didn't change the way I ate. I didn't change anything. You know, there's no food I don't eat. I didn't go with the recommended diabetic foods, nothing. And 4 years now, I'm at my natural weight. You know, I have a 34-inch waist. I'm 55 years of age now. You know, and I really eat everything. Okay?
Great.
Now, that's the first thing. The second thing then is accountability with honesty. Be honest with me. You can't be honest with anybody else until you're completely honest with you. And I mean down into the depths of your being, which is what I am. And therefore, you can then start to communicate. This unity I talk about is, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing superhuman about me whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, anybody, literally anybody, could do what I did. You just need to stop rising too high above people. I want people to come with me. You know, I don't want to...
Well, I have something to share with you, Brandon. You are special. And why you're special is that you are awake and you are conscious and you are a responsible human being. And that makes you very, very special.
Yeah.
But I hope
agree.
not unreachable, Steve.
Pardon me?
Well, no, you're not unreachable because you're with us. So you are reachable.
All right, we're gonna speed this up because we're ending the show. So, real quickly, Linda, share with the viewers, really quickly, fast, what are some of the strategies
I agree
you use?
that we are responsible. I am responsible. I have a big thing on my desk every day. I am responsible for my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. I am responsible for me. Go get it. You know, think about what I'm going to eat, drink, act, and think. And just for Brandon, there is a universal godlike energy in you, and you are very special, and that's what I'm really thanking every day, that this beautiful energy that we put on the planet, and we're here for a purpose, and I haven't finished yet, so I want to stay well so I can do it.
But let's share it with people and let them feel it without putting it too far away from them.
I travel the world. I share it with heaps of people.
I think the message you've all given is be responsible for yourself. I think that's the message out there. Be responsible for yourself, whatever you do in your 24-hour a day. Just be responsible. Take responsibility of what you eat, what you do, how you think, and who you are. Yeah. Be responsible.
Yeah. Fantastic. So we actually are at the end of the show, believe it or not. It always goes very, very fast. I want to thank all of our viewers, all of our cast members, and especially our guest Brandon, and also, of course, the technical crew that's behind the glass. And if you have heard and experienced anything on this show today that moved, touched, and inspired you, I would like to invite you to go to livingconsciously.co and let our cast members assist you how to get well. And also to go to our website at livingconsciously.tv and interact with us there. Leave us comments about your experience of the show. What would you like to hear and know about next? Give us some feedback for improvement. That would be absolutely fantastic. So go to livingconsciously.tv. And I absolutely enjoyed the show today. I hope that everybody on the cast feels that we accomplished what we set out to do on the show today, which is to have the viewers walk away with that what's important in our lives is to become aware and to be responsible for everything that we do in our lives. Thank you very much. You've been absolutely fantastic. See you next week, same time, same place.
Great.
Bye now.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks. Bye, Linda. Bye, Nunan.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Lovely
Nina.
talking to you. Bye.
Bye, Linda.